the debate for secondary school students. We have some of the debaters here with us already. We have Form 3s and 4s, and they are really they're going to be debating about sugar taxation. So that's what they're going to be debating about today. So I hope that some of you all could have your lunch and go join them in the other room and see what they have to say. They're very, very enthusiastic, and Dr. Kuma will be chairing that session for us. So that's what's going to happen today. I also want to remind you all that next week Sunday is our Run That 5K. Now it's almost sold out, so I hope all of our members are already signed up, because we're hoping for 1,200 people there, and we're going to be making the Human Blue Circle. Now I have to contact Guinness, because I think we did break the record last year for the largest Human Blue Circle. We're hoping to do that this year again. 1,200 people in our circle wearing blue, so we all are going to be part of that. I also want to remind you all, well, in terms of the Blue Circle, I have one here, and you all could actually purchase it on the outside. So we have them here for sale. So this is the symbol for diabetes. Just in case you all didn't know, this is the symbol for diabetes, a blue circle. And the reason it's a blue circle, because the circle represents everyone. The blue represents the sky. And so the blue circle really represents everyone under the blue sky, because everyone under the blue sky can be affected by diabetes. So that's the reason why it's a blue circle. So that's why we have blue for the month of November. I also want to remind you all that we have vaccinations available, the flu vaccine right outside on the left-hand side. I'm going to take mine today. Influenza is rampant right now, and we know that it's not very nice. I know of some people who have got it, and it's not nice for them. So I want all of my members to get vaccinated. If you all have not gotten the influenza vaccine as yet, when you go outside, you can get it. I'll get mine today as well. And lastly, I would like to thank our staff. So all of the girls and our volunteers at the office who worked extremely hard in putting together this event today. But I want to especially thank Niala, and I'm not sure if Niala is here right now, but I want to especially thank Niala, because Niala would have really coordinated this event, did an extremely good, she did extremely good in putting together everything today, so I hope that you all do enjoy. So that's it from me, and I want to turn you back over to Dr. Saf, and of course, we have this opening ceremony. You're going to be hearing from our dignitaries, but I'm looking forward to meeting all of you all today, and again, thank you all so much for coming out.
Thank you so much, Dr. Andrew Danu. And we move quickly on to our next presenter. Again, very familiar to the face of the Diabetes Association, Second Vice President of the Diabetes Association, Dr. Brian Coburn, Dean of the Faculty of Science and Technology, and a Senior Lecturer in Biochemistry. Here's a little fun fact that I'm not too sure you may be familiar with. His training included analysis of the human genetic linkage at the Rockefeller University in New York since 1998, medical experimental genetics at the Jackson Laboratory, and he has been the awardee, the Howard Hughes Medical Institute Research Fellow at the University of Chicago from 1994 to 1997. We welcome Dr. Brian Coburn.
Good morning and thank you. Okay, this is Diabetes Awareness Month. We need to sound as though we're ready to move this morning. Good morning. Good morning. That's what we're talking about. Okay, so thank you again, Chair of this morning's proceedings. It would be remiss of me not to say thank you to the Honorable Minister. Thank you, sir. Always grateful for your patronage and support. And as well, our actual host here today, PVC and Campus Principal, Professor Rosemary Bell-Antoine. Thank you. President, Diabetes Association, all other protocols observed. The Diabetes Association is in its 35th year. The University of the West Indies is in its 75th year. Diabetes, of course, has been known since the time of the pharaohs. but only just over 100 years ago, insulin was discovered and isolated. Across time, it's taken partnerships to challenge diabetes and to make progress against this disease. Partnerships like the one between the Diabetes Association and the University of the West Indies. We are happy to collaborate with the association. Like the University of the West Indies, that has come from very humble beginnings and has survived on the volunteerism, on the passion of lay members for the most part. Your advocacy has moved the needle for those living with diabetes and their families. It's a real honor to be amongst the members of the association who continue to work and volunteer their time. The University of the West Indies, as part of its 75th celebrations, will be having its research festival, the first of its kind at this campus, next week, the 22nd and the 23rd of November. Looking forward to seeing many people take part in that. Okay, my job here is really simple, to welcome you all. The Diabetes Association has grown from strength to strength, and today's exercise is just another example of the kind of work that the association is now involved in. I want to welcome you. It's educational. It's also entertaining. Hopefully you will share, like our session chair said, you will share what you hear today with your colleagues, friends, and family. To one and all, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Coburn. And now bringing greetings on behalf of the Pan American Health Organization, Dr. Michelle Harris, advisor for non-communicable diseases and mental health in Paho, Trinidad and Tobago, in office since September 2022, having worked in similar capacity in Paho, Jamaica, office for 5 years. A public health physician and epidemiologist who has worked in health services in Guyana, Jamaica, and as a coordinator of the Doctor of the Public Health Program at UWI Mona. We welcome to the stage to give greetings.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much. Honorable Minister of Health, Mr. Terence D.L. Singh, Principal of the UWI St. Augustine Campus, Professor Bell Antoine, President of the Diabetes Association, Dr. Dano, all other distinguished speakers and members, everyone here present. A pleasant good morning to you again. I bring greetings on behalf of Dr. Harbus Barbosa, who is the director of the Pan American Health Organization, which is the regional office of the World Health Organization, headquartered in Washington, D.C. Every November the 14th, when the World Diabetes Day is commemorated, it is yet another opportunity to raise awareness about the impact of diabetes mellitus on the health of people. It also highlights the opportunities to strengthen the prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of diabetes. This is in fact my second year here, and I'm always impressed by the work of the Diabetes Association of Trinidad and Tobago. And And maybe we can applaud you for what you have been doing. Because our role is to work alongside the national authorities, usually the Ministry of Health, and all other NGOs, organizations that are working together for the common goal of strengthening the prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of diabetes. This year, as was mentioned before, the theme is Access to Diabetes Care. Know your risk, know your response. It is estimated that that the prevalence of diabetes globally is approximately 10%. I note that it's reported that it's as much as 15% for Trinidad and Tobago. And it is estimated that 62 million people in the region of the Americas are living with diabetes mellitus. This number has tripled within this region since 1980, and it's estimated that it would reach as much as 109 million by 2040, according to the Diabetes Atlas. Prevalence has been rising more rapidly in low and middle-income countries than in high-income countries. In Trinidad and Tobago, according to the latest data published by PAHO, in 2019, there were 1,418 deaths from diabetes mellitus, with Trinidad and Tobago having the third highest death rate within the region, followed by Mexico and Guyana, I think they are. We recognize that while type 1 diabetes is not preventable, there's a lot that we can do to prevent type 2 diabetes. And since we've been here this morning, we've alluded to those. We recognize the non-modifiable risk factors, but there are a number of modifiable risk factors, which our president quite ably outlined. I want to put a little emphasis on some of the modifiable risk factors that not only lie within the ambit of the individual, because we know those. We say all the time, have a healthy diet, regular physical activity, maintain normal body weight, and avoid using tobacco. But as an international organization, as a Ministry of Health, we can also advocate for policies and strategies that will provide the type of support that will be given so that the modifiable risk factors do not only rest in the care of the individual. And by that, I refer to policies to reduce the obesogenic environment in which we live. Earlier this year, I was pleased to be in the presence of the Minister of Health, where the Mount Hope Women's Hospital was declared a baby-friendly hospital. So we need to do things like that. We need to ensure, we need to put prevention strategies in place to improve the level of breastfeeding within the population. And I know there are other institutions across the country. I don't know if I see anybody here from San Grande Hospital. Do I see anybody there who are working towards achieving the same? And several others will be undertaking to go in that direction within the year. Front of package labeling. We need to provide the population with the information they need so that they can make the right choices. So we need to have that balance, not just the individual who should be responsible for making those responsible modifiable changes. I was also happy to hear that at lunch, the debate theme is going to be sugar taxation, and that it's going to be done by the young persons. Those are all policies, strategies that we need to put in place to provide the kind of support not taking away the responsibility from the individual, but providing the environment to be less obesogenic, because we all know that obesity is a precursor for the development of type 2 diabetes. Also, impaired glucose tolerance and impaired fasting glycemia are intermediate conditions in the transition between normality and diabetes. So as we look towards knowing your risk and knowing your response, we encourage that be one of the areas that persons explore and find out about themselves along the journey. We know that diabetes is a major cause of blindness, kidney failure, heart attacks, stroke, lower limb amputation. The minister has very strong thrust to address lower limb amputation and to reduce that prevalence. Just before I close, I just want to refer to what PAHO, what the Pan American Health Organization, is specifically doing to assist in this area. In addition to all those that I mentioned about the policies and the strategies and the school feeding policies and the sugar taxes, what we refer to as the best buys, where we encourage increased taxation on sugar sweetened, increased taxation on things like tobacco with the intent of reducing the consumption levels. Those are recommended best buys, things that have small cost and big returns. There's the Hearts D package, the Hearts D technical package to improve diagnosis and treatment of type 2 diabetes. Some people may be familiar with the Hearts package, which focuses on hypertension and reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease. But there is also the Hearts D package that can be implemented in the primary care settings to facilitate improved diagnosis and management of type 2 diabetes. There is the PAHO Strategic Fund that can help countries to increase access to and availability of essential medicines, including insulin and other diabetes medicines and technologies. And we encourage you to take advantage of the PAHO revolving fund for purchase of these medical supplies. My task this morning is to bring you greetings on behalf of PAHO and to share with you how we can help to facilitate the work that you are doing. I think I have done that, and I thank you, and I want to say that we continue to be available and willing to support in every way to ensure the improved health and well-being of the population. Thank you.
A warm thank you, Dr. Michelle Harris. These stakeholders make a significant difference to the work we do right here at the Diabetes Association, the work across Trinidad and Tobago. Now, we mentioned a couple interesting things that happened in this year. Very importantly was the introduction of the continuous glucose monitor. Are you all familiar with that? Raise your hands. Yes, but who better to give that explanation on what it is than our patients themselves? So, without further ado, I welcome Mr. Nishan Lal, who will tell you his experience, his testimonial with the continuous glucose monitor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. Madam Chairperson, Honorable Minister of Health, Mr. Terence Dial Singh, President of the Diabetic Association of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Andrew Danu, Dr. Brian Cockburn, of the University of West Indies, Dr. Michelle Harris from the Pan American Health Organization, distinguished guests, a pleasant good morning. I am deeply honored to be given this opportunity to give a testimonial with living with the continuous glucose monitor. I was a student at the Clacosha Government Primary School preparing for the SEA examinations in March 2016. In March 2006, when I was diagnosed with diabetes. Hearing upon this news was deeply troubling. My parents and I were both deeply shocked, shattered, and was in a form of dismay as to what we would do with these steps. But with the help of Dr. Akan, who was a doctor diagnosing me and being warded at the Mount Hope Children's Hospital for 2 weeks and then being a patient at the Mount Hope Outpatient Clinic for 8 years, I was given tips on how to manage and cope with the diabetes. In addition to being seen dietitians, they helped me make a diet plan and exercise. However, in August this year, while a routine visit with Dr. Andrew Dubre, he told me about the CGM being available from the Diabetes Association. Here, after discussion and consultation with the association, I was fitted with the CGM in that same month of August 2023. The CGM works by measuring the amount of glucose in the interstitial fluid, the fluid between your cells. Prior to the CGM, it was difficult to effectively manage my diabetes through diet and medication alone. I had been advised to test my blood sugar on a regular basis with a standard finger poke test. This was a major inconvenience since carrying a blood sugar testing kit was cumbersome, the test was painful, as well as the concern thought whether the kit was present with me. Now that I am using a CGM, those inconveniences are eliminated and replaced with an easier day-to-day means to know my blood glucose level. It allows me to see my reading at any period of time and how the different types of food, exercise, stress, medication, and illness affects my blood glucose level. With this in mind, I have a better understanding of my blood glucose and where it is headed, helping me make informed decisions about my insulin management and dosing. The major benefit of using the CGM are the high and low alerts. This allows me to sleep safe at night, knowing that it would alert me if there are any untowards changing. This feature has personally benefited me since I was a victim to hypoglycemic episodes in the past that sometimes resulted in accident emergency admittance. Now, even if I miss an alarm, my family and friends can be alerted to the alarm and make the relevant interventions to remedy the situation. Since using the CGM for the past 4 months, it has been helpful to help me keep a better eye on my blood sugar and my blood glucose levels, drastically reducing my hypo and hyperglycemic episodes. With this being in mind, this has helped me live a more normal life being a type 1 diabetic. I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Nishan. And for those who are interested, the continuous glucose monitoring kits are indeed, if you want more information, you can contact the Diabetes Association of Trinidad and Tobago to be able to get more information on that. Is it only applicable for our adults? Absolutely not. And here we have Zion, I hope I didn't butcher the name, Zion, and his mom, Rabia. Zion and Rabia Jennings to share on their experience with the CGM.
Hi everyone, good morning, Honorable Minister, all other protocols observed. So when Dr. Andrew told us that we had 5 minutes to talk about the CGM, I was thinking to myself, only 5 minutes, I need more like 30 minutes because it's such a game changer. So, excuse me. So why is this a game changer? First point, we're looking at a point in time reading versus continuous data. So everybody knows when you do a finger stick, you get just a reading alone. So for example, last night I tested Zion before he went to bed. He was 112. We all know 112 is a good level, right? But what exactly does that mean? Is he going up? Is he going down? He's going to sleep. So I want some kind of, self-assurance that he will stay within a certain range when he's asleep. With the CGM, and in particular with the one that the Diabetes Association is offering, the 8X, you get 5 minutes averages, and that is sent to his phone, to my phone, right? So when you scan, or when it comes up on your phone, it will tell you 112, whether it's going straight, you see an arrow, if it's going up, if it's going down, if it's going straight. So that way I have some assurance. He's 112, he's stable, he's going straight. If I know he's 112 and he's coming down, then I know, okay, before you go to bed, I need to give you something, some milk or some kind of carb to stabilize him. All right, so that is one way. It's a game changer. Another way is, well, Mr. Lal spoke about it, the audible alarms. So remember when you test with a finger stick, again, you're just seeing a point in time data, right? You don't get any alarms, you don't get any alerts or anything like that. With the CGM, you can set the range that is recommended. You can set your alarms. At what level do you want it to alarm for high? At what level do you want it to alarm for low? Right? And parents of T1Ds, children with type 1 diabetes, you would know that the day that they were diagnosed, that would have been the last night you would have had sound sleep, right? Because once they have, with T1Ds, they can go low. Throughout the night, they go low. So we test at 12 o'clock, 12 midnight. We test at 2 o'clock. We test at 4 o'clock. Sometimes in between that, if you test and the level is low, then you have to give them you have to wake them up. Sometimes it's difficult to even get them up when they're low. You have to give them something to eat, something to drink. Then you have to wait. It's a waiting game. 15 minutes, half an hour, you want to wait to see whether they're stable, whether their blood sugars are going up, whether you can just go back to sleep, right? So it's really just a waiting game. With a CGM, right, the pattern is there, you would know. And the audible alarm will wake him up, it will wake me up, right? So that way, you know that you can sleep a little more restful. I mean, it's not sound sleep throughout the night. You still want to get up and check, right? I still pick up my phone and check to make sure he's okay. But I mean, you have a little better sleep, right? So the audible alarms are really a game changer as well. The second point is peace of mind. So, you know, when they're not with you, when they're in school, especially when they're in school, you want to make sure their levels are good. He's older now, but when he was younger, fish out of water, because you want to know whether his level is going high, if he's eating what he's supposed to be eating, if he's sneaking and eating things that he's not supposed to be eating. I mean, they're children, right? So they will see things and they will want to eat. So when you're not with them, you want to know what is going on with their level. So the game changer part of this 8X CGM is that you can add persons to the accounts, caregivers, myself, his dad, his sister, so that we also get the real-time data on our phones. So even though he's in school, I will know, okay, his level is good, I'm comfortable, peace of mind, right? Even if his level is high, I can message him and say, hey, you need to take a shot. You're going to have lunch just now. Take a shot because you don't want to go too high after lunch, right? Even if he's low. So he will get the alarm, obviously. He will get the alarm. And you could even, I know like for younger children, the teacher can also be added to the account. So the teacher will know, okay, I have this child in my class, their level is going low. I need to just stop and give them 5 minutes to have something to eat or drink to get their level back up to an acceptable range, right? And the last point that I want to talk about is you have better control of your diabetes management. So, you know, when they were diagnosed, the doctor saying you need to have this logbook and you log everything. With your finger stick, pre-breakfast, pre-lunch, pre-dinner, pre-bedtime, you want to log what they eat. And then when you have clinic, you take the book with you and, you know, the doctor will try to look at trends and try to identify how they could improve for better control, what they need to improve, whether it's insulin dosage, whether it's something to change in diet, right? Even as parents, we can look at that logbook too, and we could say, okay, so your mid-morning level is high every day. What can we do to adjust? But guess what? With this CGM, you get all of that available, right? So there are certain things that you can check within the app. There's something called time in range, and it tells you the percent of that time within the CGM that your level is within that acceptable range. And now the TIR, the time in range, is very important now to ensure that you have proper diabetes control. So you have that. You even get daily patterns. You can look at the day, you get daily patterns, weekly patterns. So that way you can identify, okay, so if you're going too high every midday, then maybe there's something we need to adjust with the insulin. Maybe there's something we can adjust with breakfast, you know. So you have a more educated pattern or more educated data then for you to make certain decisions within your diabetes control and diabetes management, right? So those are 4 short points, short. I tried to keep it around short. And I'm going to just pass on to Zion now, and he can give you a couple points.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. I would like to talk about it on how it has affected my life, right? So it was a really good change. It was painless. It was ease of mind as well, like my mom said, and well, it was that I could have done it very easily as well. So what I also want to say is that where it comes in painless is that it's very easy to just attach onto your arm, and well, you don't have to continuously test your level on your finger every single time that you want to know, right? So where it comes in with the ease of mind and that as well is that it automatically tests it every 5 minutes, like Mom would have mentioned, right? So when it tests it like that, it will give you the average of if it's going up, if it's going down, if I need to have something or if I don't, right? So how that would come in is if I'm going to play games or if I'm going to do a sport, I would know like if I need to drink a juice or if I don't have anything, I could just go on and do that. Or also as well, if I'm going to play games, my level is high, I could take insulin for it to go down, right? And that's it's basically it, but it's just everything in general. It just adds up to so much because it's painless. My fingers, it has returned to normal. It doesn't look blistered. It doesn't have a risk of getting an infection. And well, it adds up so much to the point where I could like just be normal almost. I don't have to continuously test my level with my finger because it just counts my phone, sends to my parents, sends to the teachers. And if I need something, everybody is just there. And my mom can message me, the teachers that tell me I need to have something. So that's basically it. It changed my life in a very good and positive way. And I would strongly recommend this CGM to persons out there with diabetes.
Thank you so much for sharing those testimonials, really from the heart. And a warm applause, our kudos, our respect to every single parent who have to strictly manage on a granular level our type 1 diabetics. Each one of us here who have either had to have that stick or had to do the stick for another person know what that involves, and then having to do it multiple times throughout the day, and then of course different adjustments. We understand, and all of those reasons are why we want to shift the level of awareness to action. I hope there's some teachers in the audience. Are there? Well, then that's something we need to do next time. Ensure that teachers are here so that they are better informed of what to do if that happens in the school space. Now, as we move through our agenda, this one I know you all are looking forward to in terms of bringing greetings. We are so privileged here to always have the partnership of the Minister of Health. Every single one of our Diabetes Association of Trinidad and Tobago activities, without hesitation, the Ministry of Health lends their support. So, without further ado, I bring to the stage the Honorable Minister of Health, Mr. Terence Dialsing.
A very good morning to all. Good morning. I bring you greetings as a type 2 diabetic. I can't help being East Indian. I can't help having 2 parents who were diabetic. I can't help having a sister who was diabetic. But I can, and I did, make the lifestyle changes that needed to be made. When my father, on a Diwali day, maybe about 30 years ago, got his first stroke, and we took him to Professor Paul Tiloksing. Professor Tiloksing looked at me then. I was about 30, in my 30s. He said, you, meaning me, you need to make some lifestyle changes. Otherwise, you will end up like your father with a stroke. My father, in those days, we didn't know about diabetes. We didn't know what HbA1c was. Not everybody has it within themselves to make those changes immediately. I can do it. So this morning, I don't want to speak to you about diabetes because you are the converted. You are not the audience I need to speak to. The audience I need to speak to, and Dr. Andrew Danu alluded to it in his diabetes message in the papers this week. Who we need to speak to are what he called the complacent and what I call the non-compliant. As Minister of Health, I will spend hundreds of millions of dollars giving you metformin free, giving you simvastatin free, giving you verapamil free. And when you go home to somebody who has recently died, you see all these plastic bags of medication. And when you ask the sons and daughters of that person who has just died, what all that medication doing there? Well, mine, take it, you know. She feeling good. Well, the reason you're feeling good is because you want the medication. So this morning, and with the permission of Dr. Danu, I've been waiting to call him Dr. Danu 2 years now. With the permission of Dr. Danu and Dr. Mohammed, I told them I am going to change the conversation with you this morning. Because speaking to the converted is an absolute waste of my time and your time. I am going to open up the floor, and I want to hear from you as to why you think, to use Dr. Danu's term, people are complacent, and to use my words, why people are non-compliant with the simple lifestyle changes that need to be made. I want to hear from you. So when I formulate policy to all those who are not in this room. Speaking to you is a waste of time this morning. I want to hear from you about your experiences with your relatives, your friends, and your community as to why people are unwilling to make the changes. We call them modifiable risk factors. I can't help being East Indian. I can't go back and change my genealogy and tell my mother and father don't have me. I can't do that. But I could stop drinking sugar with coffee, which I did. I could stop drinking Coke and Pepsi, which I did. I could stop eating a tumbler of ice cream when we made soursop ice cream home, which my father used to do, which I inherited his sweet tooth from. We used to eat ice cream like that. Yes, sir. Yes. I used to churn it. None of you here know about churning ice cream. All you know? Good. You know? Yeah, and you put salt on the ice and thing, right? Good. That's why I have big arms today. So I'm going to open up the floor. I want to hear from you. Tell me, what can I as Minister of Health do to talk to the people who are not in this room about type 2 diabetes? The floor is open.
Hi, good day, everybody. My name is Satira Maharaj. Thank you for giving us this opportunity, Minister. Much appreciated. I am a young type 2 diabetic. I was diagnosed at 30. And one of the requests I would like to make is education around mental health, stigma, and diabetes. I navigate the public healthcare system, and I have been asked by healthcare professionals, what did you do to give yourself diabetes so young? And that was while they were taking my blood pressure reading, and it shot up to maybe 160/90 immediately. The kind of guilt that I've faced from healthcare professionals who I believe do their best. I can see their work, and I am so deeply appreciative of it. And the language that we use around diabetes, particular type 2 diabetes, right? The words that you've used, I notice that you are very careful about it. Complacency, non-compliant. And I'm glad that you're using those kinds of words as opposed to the words that bring about this sense of huge guilt in diabetics like myself. So I would like to advocate for us to be aware, us as a country, to be aware of the mental health impact that comes with being a diabetic. We make so many food-related choices, and sometimes we face so much guilt and shame because of the choices that we make every day. And it can be really hard on us. So thank you for considering us in your policies. Words like, do you want to kill yourself? Do you want to give yourself a heart attack? Do you want to give yourself a stroke? Why do we not, go back to these health professionals over and over again when we hear that kind of language? Again, thinking about guilt and shame. So thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much. So we will take that on board. I don't know her name, but she raised a very important point. I know people, when they get diagnosed with diabetes, they are actually ashamed to tell their families. They feel a sense of guilt. Isn't that true? So you are spot on. We need to change the way we converse as medical professionals. Thank you very much for that. Anybody else? Yes.
We have a member here from Point 410.
Excuse me sitting, bad knees. I am living with diabetes 34 years now, and I have been in the Diabetes Association 20 odd years. And we, from the time I started, we have these outreach where we know people are living with diabetes. They either are ashamed to acknowledge, or they give you stories, and in particular, Point Forte is country. They know every bush. They know when to take it, how to take it, why they're taking it, and they do take the medication from the clinic, but they are not utilizing it. And up to Tuesday of this week, we have met people with high numbers. They have not joined the association. They are in clinic, but their sugar is out of control. Something wrong somewhere. Help us.
And that's what I'm trying to find out. Why are people who get the medication free, who have access to information, this is what I want to find out. What it is that we can do better to inform, help, educate them to simply take the medication and make some, that is what I want to find out. So thank you. Point 14, is it? Yeah. Good. Yes.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Nasif Mohammed is the name. Good morning to you, sir. One of my contribution is that I'm a volunteer with the Diabetes Association Trinidad and Tobago, and what I've noticed is that, long time, we were thinking that only old people get diabetes. Now we are seeing the gestational diabetes taking place. We have babies being born with diabetes, lots of things that is happening. And I think that one of the greatest accomplishments that we can achieve is by implementing this level of education educating, bringing awareness within our educational systems, within our schools, not only within the schools, but have the churches, the mosques, the temples, and all these different institutions bringing some level of awareness within them as well. Not just have them there, you go to church, you say prayers, you go to the mosque, you perform your salah, you go to the Hindu temple, you perform your Ramayana and all these things, and that is the end. You go home and eat some sweets, get more diabetic, and that's it, you know what I mean? It's not about it. Serve as a community center. Be there for your community, for your members, for your congregation. Educate them, not just in religious knowledge, but also in things that are good for their health, in education, in academics, in every aspect of the sense. You know, and I think that it will go a long way in putting those policies in place, working along with the Minister of Education, having those policies and those level of awareness implemented within the school curriculum as well. Because the youths, they need it. They need it desperately.
Okay, thank you. Very good. So 2 things. Dr. Andrew Dano has been doing just that with schools. So it is being done. 2, the RHA is going to mosques. They're going to temples. They're going to churches. It is done. But my problem is, how do we do all these things? Andrew is in every single school. Every school. So it's there. But for some reason, globally, and don't think this is a Trinidad problem, This is a global problem, because when I go to conferences, we talk about this. That people can be split into 2 categories. Health-seeking behavior, which is you. I don't want to talk to you. No offense. And those who don't seek health. Those are the ones we need to reach. Sophia, how much more time we have for this? One last one.
One more, yeah.
Good morning, sorry. My name is Lisa Roberts. I have been a type 1 person with diabetes. Next year will be 39 years. But one of the things that I help with the children who have diabetes, and I know it's type 1, but we do not have, diabetes is linked to, depression and mental, issues as you deal with diabetes. And we have been, there's a shortage of people to help the children and adults, myself as well, deal with the burnout, the depression that can come. And it's a struggle to find, I have a lot of children who call and ask to say, anybody, any psychologist. The clinic, unfortunately, in Mount Hope, I don't know if they've, but there hasn't been. It's hard to find people. Sometimes we have to send them to counselors, to psychologists outside of the system because it's not readily available. And I really think it's something that is needed to help everyone, adults, me, children, everybody deal with diabetes.
Thank you. So if you look at your program today, there is a slot talking about burnout. However, what the Ministry of Health has done, we have launched something called Find Care TT, because the public health system cannot physically accommodate 10,000 people coming to a clinic. So what we have done, we have launched something called Find Care TT. Andrew, maybe you could put this on your literature. Find Care TT is an online portal where any person with any mental wellness issue, and notice I'm using the word mental wellness and not mental disease. We need to stop using the term mental disease. Mental wellness issue. They can go onto that, and there are 30 agencies, 24/7, including a suicide hotline that you have access to. So you don't have to physically go to Mount Hope or San Fernando. So it's there. So I'm asking the Diabetes Association to all, I think you all might be on it. No, I don't think so. But you can be on it, right? Sophia,
Right here.
I really want to have one more person.
Sure.
And listen to the question carefully. I want to find out why the type 2 diabetic is non-compliant or complacent. That's really my focus this morning. Could I have one more person to speak? Now listen to the question, eh? The type 2 diabetic, why do you think they are unwilling to make the lifestyle changes to manage their condition?
Hi, good day. I'm Sarah. I think what the previous person has spoken about with, like getting that go-between for the persons with diabetes. And because if you go out and ask some people sometimes what it is that you're doing using this tablet, I don't know, the doctor just gave it to me. So there, that link or that person between the doctors and nurses and, the healthcare system to really tell the people and tell them this is what it's going to be, because a lot of them think that it has a lot of side effects, so they would not take the drugs. And that is something that we have to deal with, because a lot of people too, as I say, they have the stigma of not wanting other people to know. Being a young person, getting diabetes,
you
you're
like
still...
You're under 16.
Okay, then, thank you. Yeah, so it's actually, that is what I think we should be doing, right?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So we have one more response.
Okay. I'm still trying to get from you, the audience. So let me boil it down. Why it is the type 2 diabetics still drink Coke and Pepsi and not water? Let me boil it down to that.
Sugar!
Why does the type 2 diabetic still drink Coke and Pepsi and homemade juice with 10 pot spoon of sugar and not water? I want an answer for that.
Feel good.
Huh?
It makes you feel good. The sugar makes you feel good. At the end of the day, it makes you feel good.
Good day, Minister. So, my comment as a type 2 diabetic myself.
And you remember the media?
Yes.
Lovely.
Well, that makes it worse, because our hours are not consistent. Hours, as in, my comment is going to be something that the lady from Paho said about the obesogenic environment. I would love you to put your weight behind the work from home policy, because the 2 hours that we spend in traffic to get to work and the 2 hours that we spend in traffic leaving work, it's time we could be spending exercising. It's time we could be spending making a proper meal as opposed to grabbing some Crixan tuna or, a granola bar that has X amount of sugar in it, even though it's touted as healthy.
Okay.
And I think for myself, as someone who is very intermittent about how I take my medication, some of it is the hope that in trying to make lifestyle changes. So if I start to eat...
Trying to what, sorry?
Make the lifestyle changes. If I start to cook better, I think to myself, okay, so I'm reducing the amount of sugar I put in my food. I reduce the sugar that I drink, so I only drink water 90% of the time. The other 10% is coffee. I say, all right, I could stop taking the medication because my sugars are at a level, and then you stop testing. And then you're like, okay, I don't need the medication again because it seems to be good when I test it every other week. And then you just fall out of the routine of taking the medication.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Sophia, are we going over time?
We certainly are.
You're
But we
killing me
will
here.
facilitate.
Or I killing you?
Yeah.
We
Last
will
one?
pull back on that time.
Last one. But
we
this
will
is,
give...
this is useful.
We will get, yes, this is where we are getting data, raw data.
Yeah.
So here we will invite, we have one last feedback.
Right, really quickly, Minister. There are taste sensors that develop to help humans survive. Sweet, salty, umami, salty, bitter, and there's even a fat receptor as well. All of these develop to help you survive times of feast and famine. So to ask why people drink Coke and ice cream and tiramisu, it simply was part of the mechanism that helped you survive. Now, of course, evolution didn't predict grocery stores and doubles men. So, okay. Right. So the challenge now, of course, is to correct for where we find ourselves, and it's not that simple. It's a challenge. It's a difficulty. One step at a time. Some people can wean themselves cold turkey off of sweet food. Other people have to do it in a stepwise manner.
Okay.
Thanks.
So that's a thank you very much. And that's what we've been trying to do. So ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for putting up with me for the past 2 minutes. May God bless you and have a wonderful symposium. Thank you.
And that's what we're here for active change, to identify the points, the pain points. Now here's something I wonder if you all know. Do you all know sugar is as addictive as cocaine on the sensors in the brain? So here's what I tell all my patients. You're sweet enough already. You don't need that much sugar in your life. Yeah? We all have those urges. But guess what? We also have the ability to, as Minister said, cold turkey. But we also have the ability to make the wise choice. And that's what we're here. Not only to make those wise choices, but to know why we're making the wise choices. We got such incredible feedback in terms of ensuring our healthcare professionals do the navigation and the proper education, filling those gaps. I want to take the time to invite every single one of you to tune in on our lunchtime. Do you all recognize the voice? Right, the Lunchtime Doctor. We have crossed more than 500 shows. And guess what? My callers no longer call and say, Doc, I'm taking the white pill. They're telling me the name. They're telling me their HbA1c. So every lunchtime, 12 to 1, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, we have our Diabetes Association there on Freedom. My program is in a few more stations, Freedom, Sangeeta, Vibe, Sky. And of course, we have Guardian, we have Newsday, we have CNC3, we have TV6 here. The entire gambit of the media has also come on board to ensure the education of every single one of our citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. So where you can make that difference, we certainly are. Now I have the opportunity to give thanks, to express the gratitude to each one of those who shared their greetings earlier on today. So we're going to invite one of our very young type 1 diabetes, Zion Jennings, come to the stage to present a small token of our appreciation to the Minister of Health. And those circles that we talked about earlier on, we're going to ensure that the minister carries the message throughout. Thank you. I invite Ms. Nandini Samuel to join us on the stage. Thank you so much, Zion. As we give our additional tokens of appreciation. Everyone we wish we could have a token for, but we now invite our Deputy Secretary, Mr. Stephen Budram, who joined us here today as well. Deputy Permanent Secretary, Mr. Stephen Bidram. Our beloved campus principal of the university, Professor Rosemary Bell Antoine. Dr. Michelle Harris. Thank you so much, Dr. Harris. We also have with us here our loved Dr. Brian Kavoon, Dean of the Faculty of Science and Technology. We know he's been pinned by the Diabetes Association already, so this is just a warm token of our appreciation. And now we move on to the presentation of the diabetes educators. I just want to take a pause and ask everyone to turn off their cell phones. We did get a couple little distractions during the earlier presentations, but let's just be mindful. We do have upcoming presentations later on. So now we invite Miss Liana Samuel to the stage to give us that hand in presenting to our distinguished diabetes educators. And for those who are not familiar, there is something called the International Diabetes Federation. And this is the first time the Diabetes Association has had so many diabetes educators participated, and not just participated, but accredited by this particular body in this diabetes education course. I hope we're all here in the audience, so as I'm going to call out your name and we invite Miss Anissa Mentor to come to the stage. I'm going to call the rest in the meanwhile so you can at least come to the stair. Miss Aisha James. Miss Aisha James. Dr. Bernice Dyer-Regis. David Gobin, are you in here? Miss Heather Duncan. So we're hoping that all of those conversations about making sure there are persons to educate, we've now, the Diabetes Association, through IDF, has facilitated 11 diabetes educators. Ms. Jeneline Hablin Raphael, I know you're in here. Ms. Kathleen Watley. Kathleen Watley? Melissa Mohammed? Oceana Mohan. Ranjiv Mohammed. Next name, Deborah Samuel Joseph. Eastland Sankar Mitchell. Gail Morris. Okay. Name? Eastland Sankar. So accepting on behalf of Eastland Sankar Mitchell. Leston Romeo. Nicole Sanko. Nirala Abraham. Nicole. So just repeating, Miss Nicole Sanko. Which one? From Erin Branch. Siddiqa Razak. I know I saw Saliha Dindial as well. So you next. Can make our way down to the stairs. Okay, perfect. Sarah Gangram. And two very special, hard-working, dedicated members of the Diabetes Association. You've seen their faces, you know them, and if you don't, you will know them because of the work and the advocacy they do. I welcome Nandini Samuel, our nutritionist of the Diabetes Association. You'll also see her on CNC3 Doctor's Journal, and presenting is her sister, Liana Samuel. And our incoming Vice President of the Diabetes Association, Shobha Dukaran. Yeah. Is Miss Kathleen Watley here? Fantastic. So we just have a few more small tokens of appreciation to Mr. Nishan Lal. Rabia Jennings and Zion Jennings will follow thereafter. Here at the Diabetes Association, we're very, very happy to give that level of gratitude. 1 second. We know that we're not only giving them gratitudes of appreciation, but we know they're taking these messages far and wide across the landscape of Trinidad and Tobago to help us reduce this scourge. Thank you so much for sharing, Nishan Lal. Wait, hold on. Rabia Jennings and Zion Jennings. And last but not least, our very hard-working volunteer, Francisca Reese. Thank you so much to all. That has closed off the first session of the symposium. Now, are you all ready to be fully educated to ensure some of those questions that you may have asked before is indeed answered? We're starting this second session with a video presentation. You may have heard at the very beginning the conversation on sweet for soul. Did you? Yes. But we will take, if there are any members of the audience that would want to use the washroom or take a pause, now is a good time to certainly do that. As we load the video Sweet for Soul. So we don't want you to miss the video. We will be starting the video in exactly 2 minutes.
Andrew?
you. I'll tell you a little bit about him after, but I invite you to bring your eyes to the screens.
Slow down. We're not running race or what?
Yes. Is it the city doctor? No, just see. We can call that doctor to see to our... What's his name? Edward. Edward what? Charity. He's at the trade. Morning.
Yes.
We here to see the doctor.
To all you?
No, just see. We can call that the doctor to see to our...
What's his name?
Edward.
Edward what?
Charity.
He's at what try to and I see wife Sumati.
You have an appointment?
No, we just get a phone call saying that the doctor wants to see 2 hours.
From who?
I'm not sure, it's probably from here. They say it's very important and the doctor asked to see me.
When you get a call?
Yesterday morning.
Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Chaitu, that's right. It was I who called. The doctor's expecting you. I'm glad you came. Let me let him know that you're here.
Mr. and Mrs. Chaitu?
Mr. and Mrs. Chaitu, they're here. Dr. said he wants to see the patient.
Wait, let me tell him.
Okay, no problem.
How come the doctor seen them before all of you?
He's expecting them. Please send them in.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Sir, Mr. and Mrs. Chaitu, the doctor will see you now.
Nothing wrong with them. Look at them. They're looking stronger. Yes, that's right. How come the doctor seen them before all of you? They now reach here. I waited more than an hour now.
Sir, they have an emergency.
What emergency? Nothing wrong with them. Look at them. They're looking stronger than me.
They have an appointment the doctor sent for them.
This is real stupidness. What the ass are you all the time for? Next time I go with my Dr. Hines, at least he go treat me fair.
Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. Chaitu. Have a seat.
Good morning.
Especially you, Mrs. Nurse,
Well,
will you check his vitals for me,
that
please?
You want to see 2 hours, so you know I was a little worried about that.
Yes, you should be worried.
Something wrong?
And I'm so glad that you all came this morning.
What he do now?
Especially you, Mrs. Chaitu.
Well, I got a message that you want to see the 2 hours, so you know I was a little worried about that.
Yes, you should be worried.
Something wrong?
Your husband.
What he do now?
Well, he has a problem. And we have to make up our minds to face this problem together.
Well, anything you say, doctor, we will follow through.
Mr. Chaitu, your pressure is 165 over 120. And that is ridiculously high.
She has me hustling from the taxi stand in the hot sun. I can't get a chance to relax my body.
Remember when you came to see me last month? I listened to all that you had to say.
Yes, Doc.
And I asked you certain questions, correct?
Yes, and I answered everything.
That is right, Mr. Chai. You always have an answer for everything. The question is, were you truthful with me with those answers?
What do you mean, Doc? Everything I say was God's honest truth.
Well, not according to the results on your blood test.
The blood test?
What did test show, doctor?
Well, the blood test showed that your husband has type 2 diabetes. And it's almost out of control.
Your A1C is 40, and that is a serious matter.
A1C.
That shows your husband's blood sugar reading for the past 3 months. Now, consistently high blood sugar is very serious. Over time, it can affect the heart, the eyes, kidneys, the nerves, and other parts of the body. Sometimes people with diabetes don't realize that they have the disease until they begin to have some very serious complications. You know, you can get a heart attack or even a stroke. Both of these can be fatal. Or, such as you could go blind or have kidney disease.
He go see, and what go happen if he get kidney failure?
Well, he already has stage 3 kidney disease, ma'am.
How bad is that?
He can start getting belly pains, back pains, diarrhea, vomiting, nosebleeds, rashes all over your body. You might have trouble controlling your bladder, and sometimes with such items, you might even see it. These things can lead to infections of your foot, and it may cause you to have it amputated.
Amputation.
You have to be removed.
Removed?
Cut off. Take off.
So I might have a 1 foot man?
Or maybe a no foot man if he doesn't control that immediately, Mr. Chaito. And it could also cause gingivitis.
What is gingivitis?
That is when you get an infection in the gums. That's because it can decay.
You mean like rotten teeth?
Rotten teeth, and in some cases, teeth might just fall out, Mr. Chaito.
A blood test show all of that?
Yes, it did.
So I might have a blind, no foot, no teeth man who does piss in his pants?
Yes, and you, Mr. Chaito, you haven't been totally truthful with me. Now that your wife is here, we'll go over those questions that we asked last month again, right?
That is a good idea.
Now, first of all, do you eat much rice and flour?
I used to.
Vegetables?
But not plenty, Doc.
That is he does eat 2 sada roti in the morning, 2 sada roti in the night, and lunchtime he plate full of rice.
I told you to cut down on the starches and eat plenty vegetables.
Vegetables? If I cook bodi, bhaji or baigan, he go take a little bit so just to flavor the rice or the roti. And you see, sada roti and fry aloo, like his favorite.
Don't talk dotishness now.
It's true, doctor. Only when I cook meat, then he go fully plate with talkari. Otherwise, it's a set of roti or rice. And don't talk for provision. When I cook cassava or dashin or yam, he does eat like a warahun. And macaroni, you could give him macaroni every day.
Well, at least you started using the whole wheat flour in your diet, right?
Right, what? The last time I make whole wheat roti, I had to eat all for myself. He bawling how it leaving a bitterish taste in his mouth. He say he don't want no dark roti. He say white roti is for fair-skinned people like he.
And sweets. Do you still eat sweets?
Not so much, Doc. I cut down plenty.
He don't realize how serious this thing is. Tell the doctor the truth. Doctor, in the morning, he drinking green tea. And in the night, he drinking cocoa tea with so much condensed milk. And on top of that, put in sugar.
Don't exaggerate now.
Doc, let me tell you, it's cake and sweet drink for he every day.
Not every day.
Doc, coming down the road just now, he make me stop in the parlor to buy 2 Madeleine cake for he and a red sweet drink.
1 sweet drink and a Madeleine. Can't be so bad, Doc.
1 is okay, but not 2 and 3. And then 2 or 3 times for the week, I had to make gulgula or malida for he.
That is only sometimes.
You've got to stop that, Mr. Chaito. This is not something to be taken lightly, you know. How often do you get up to pee at night?
About 1 or 2 times, Doc.
Doctor, 3 months now, we had to keep our posy under the bed because he does get up 5 or 6 times to go and pee.
6 times for the night, Mr. Chaitu?
I had to get up 2 times for the night just to empty posy.
These days making kind of cold in the night, Doc.
And what about exercise? You said you play football on evenings. Well, at least some evenings for the week.
Well, sometimes.
He must be talking about before we married. When we was courting and he's still trying to impress me, if you see him, he in his little jersey, he short pants, he ain't no belly, he playing football every day. When we married, as soon as he come home, he sit down on the couch to watch TV. I just say, Eddie, help me wash the wares now, boy. He tired. I go say, well, turn on the tank to let the water run. He tired. I go say, well, I go in and wash some clothes outside, so just turn the pot for me now. He tired. Doc, I don't know what to do with this man again.
I just help sometimes.
Help with what?
Well, like...
Mr. Chaitu, if you get lazy and don't exercise, you can lose your vigor. And then that can lead to ED.
ED?
Erectile dysfunction.
What is that, doctor?
Well, to put it in a nutshell, when a man can maintain the tower power.
I don't have that kind of problem, Doc.
That is not true at all. Doc, when we did now married, it was 1 or 2 times a night. Then it gone down to 2 times a week, 1 time a week. Now, if I get something once a month, I lucky.
Don't lie now. Doc, she exaggerating.
Honey, we have to tell the doctor the truth. This is a serious thing.
Honey, you hear she, Doc? That is my problem. It's always honey this or sugar that. Doc, you see what gave me the diabetes? She put a blight on me. Since I meet this woman, it's always honey, sweetie, sugar baby. What she take me for? A Kiza ball or something? Doc, I never had that kind of problem before. It's only since she started this young and restless kind of sweet talk.
Well, I wish you could have sweet talk me sometimes too. I would have glad if you could have say some of that to me. Before we married, you is the one who always honey and sweetie. How come I don't have diabetes?
Look, Mr. Chaitu, I think you have a very good wife here. And I think she'll do everything in her power to help you control this disease. Mrs. Chaitu, you will have to help him.
I will do anything to help him.
Now, we can't do anything for you unless you want to do it for yourself. The risk of complications can be decreased through good management of your diabetes and by controlling your blood sugar. Now, millions of people have this disease and still live normal lives all over the world. Now, you can do the same. You just have to make some changes in your diet, in your lifestyle, healthy diet, exercise more. You can live a normal life. But it is up to you, Mr. Chaitu. Do you understand me?
Yes, Doc.
And Mrs. Chaitu, you will help him do the right thing as well.
Don't worry, doctor. I go handle him, From now, he have me to deal with.
Nurse?
Yes, doctor.
Bring me a diabetes handbook, please. All right, good. Thank you very much. Right, so Mr. Chaitu, you're going to follow these guidelines. All the steps, and then we will do another blood test in 1 month. Arrange for a new blood test for Mr. Chaitu for me, please.
Yes, doctor.
Based on the new results, Mr. Chaitu, we will decide on the best procedure for you.
Yes, Doc.
Thanks, doctor.
So, Mr. Chaitu, next month, I want to see some real results.
Don't worry about he, I watching he like a hawk from now on. He feel he's a sweet man. Well, between me and he, we go see who is more man.
My sweet photo, yes, I sweet photo. My sweet photo, yes, I sweet photo. My sweet photo, yes, I sweet photo. My sweet photo, yes, I sweet photo.
what happens with in this film is men especially make excuses. And that's the whole idea of this film. And most times it's the wives who have to check up on them, And that little point I wanted to get across, and I hope I did. Thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dean. And that film, brief, short and sweet, certainly hit all the signs and symptoms and some of the nuances and some of the excuses. Not so? Yes, he's certainly genius. And if you did not get one of those yellow flyers, let us know. There's a booth outside. We will be able to give you more. Now we're a little behind on the agenda. Have you noticed? Good. But we're going into our experts. Did you all hear the mention of kidney disease in the video? Yes. And now we have Dr. Anisha Suku, nephrologist, who will indeed be elaborating a little bit more on diabetes and the kidney. She actually was accepted into the fellowship program in nephrology at the Freeman Hospital in Newcastle, UK, and on returning to Trinidad and Tobago, she holds the post of the internal medicine and transplant nephrology consultant right here at Mount Hope. We welcome Dr. Suku.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Dr. Mohammed. Thank you very much for the introduction. I am here to talk to you all this morning on diabetes and the kidney, which is a very important topic, as you will discover as we move along. So diabetes, I'll just give you all a brief overview of diabetes, a type of diabetes, and then move into the kidney and diabetes. So diabetes is a condition when the blood glucose or sugar levels are too high. You get this from the food you eat and, of course, the things you drink. It is a common condition affecting approximately 422 million people or more worldwide, and this is data as of this year. It is the most common cause of kidney disease worldwide. There are two main types of diabetes. Type 1 that usually affects younger individuals, and these patients are insulin dependent because your pancreas, which is your organ responsible for the production of insulin, does not work as well. There's type 2 diabetes, which is usually made as a diagnosis later on. However, due to, our westernized diet, we do find that patients are getting diagnosed at a younger age, and this can be controlled with oral medication and sometimes insulin, depending on your levels of HbA1c. In both forms of diabetes, the problem is due to the fact that the glucose we consume in our food and drink cannot get into the cells of the body well, and that it stays in the bloodstream, and this is where the problem arises. When this blood glucose stays in your bloodstream and builds up, you get issues with your heart, your eyes, your brain, the nerves throughout the body, and yes, eventually your kidneys. So the symptoms of diabetes: you pass a lot of urine, especially at night. Most people will ask, do you pass a lot of urine at night? As you would have seen in the video. Thirsty, so you're very, very thirsty all the time. You're very tired. You have weight loss, but you're not trying to lose weight. Blurred vision, regular infections such as thrush in the mouth, and if you get cuts or scrapes, they're very hard to heal. You may usually notice these on the feet. How do we test for diabetes? So the first thing we do a blood test, an HbA1c, which is basically a look at your blood sugar control over the past 6 to 8 weeks. an oral glucose tolerance test, which is where your doctor will look at your HbA1c or maybe a random glucose test and say, we need you to drink a sugar sample and then do blood tests an hour and 2 hours after. Fasting blood sugar levels and random blood glucose levels. Diabetes at my kidney. Now we finally reached the meat of the presentation. This is called diabetic nephropathy, and it can occur in 2 ways. The first way is renovascular damage. What is renovascular damage? Renovascular damage is when diabetes affects the blood vessels supplying the kidneys, and this can lead to the blood flow to the filters of the kidney being affected, and eventually leads to scarring of the kidneys. So here I have a little picture. I'm not sure how well it's projecting, but in the first one, if you look at the blood vessels themselves, which is in the middle of your 2 kidneys, which are located on your right and left at the back, the blood flow is quite clear. The arteries are open and there's no blockage. In progressive disease, you can see little yellow plaques starting to form. And in advanced disease, you see the yellow plaques have gotten worse, and that's atherosclerotic damage, which is what contributes to renovascular disease and eventual scarring of the kidney. Kidney disease itself. So when you have high levels of glucose in the blood, it causes extra blood to flow through the tiny filters in your kidney. These filters are responsible for cleaning your blood and making your urine. Over time, this extra blood flow in the filters can lead to protein leaking out into the urine, and it will cause scarring of the kidney. So this is an example of that. The little ball that you see is your blood filters in the little U-shaped filter of your kidney itself. Over time, as blood flow increases through, and the pressure of that blood flow increases through, you get protein leaking out of the filter of the kidney and into the urine itself. This is why most times you will be asked to pass a urine sample at your doctor's office. Diabetes over time can lead to chronic kidney disease if not carefully monitored and controlled. As of data of this year, 1 in 5 people with diabetes actually have kidney disease. Testing for chronic kidney disease. In type 1 diabetics, at 5 years after diagnosis, we do advise that you begin looking at diabetic kidney disease or testing for diabetic kidney disease. And in type 2 diabetes, we recommend that you start testing as soon as you've been diagnosed with diabetes. How do we test for diabetic kidney disease? So you look at your blood test. When you do your blood test, we look at the kidney function. Your doctor will oftentimes talk about a creatinine. A creatinine is a marker of kidney function in your blood. When your body breaks down muscle, you get creatinine secreted, and that is usually passed out into the urine. If your kidneys aren't working well, your creatinine builds up in the blood, and when we do a blood test, we can tell if your creatinine is not normal. Another way is with your urine. We look for albumin in your urine, which is a protein in urine. So we initially will ask for a urine dipstick and look for protein, and then we may send it off to see how many grams of protein there are in the urine. How often do we advise testing? So we advise testing initially every year. So initially diabetics should be tested every year for diabetic kidney disease, and that's with a simple blood test and urine test. If you have been diagnosed with any kidney disease, we then ramp up testing to every 6 months, depending on your stage, and then more often thereafter. So these are the stages of kidney disease. There are 5 stages of kidney disease. Stage 1 and 2. Stage 1 is where you're at more than 90%. Stage 2, between 60 and 90%. Stage 3, less than 60%, so 30 to 60%. And this is where we start to ask you to come in more often for testing, and we take a larger role in your overall care as a nephrologist. Not everyone who has diabetes will see a kidney doctor. It's usually when your kidneys have reached less than stage 3 that we start to step in. Yeah? So the reality is that with kidney disease, you oftentimes don't have any symptoms. You won't know you have kidney disease until you go for a blood test or a urine test at your doctor's. And that's why it's so important to monitor your kidney function and blood test and attend all your doctor visits to ensure that if you do have any form of kidney disease, it's picked up very early and managed. Because the thing about diabetic kidney disease is it can be managed, and we can slow the progression so that you don't go from stage 3 to 4 to 5. When you've gotten to stage 5 kidney disease, it means that you're very close to needing dialysis or a kidney transplant. The thing about diabetic kidney disease is once it's started and once it has happened, you oftentimes cannot reverse it. So what we aim to do is slow the progression. So the signs of diabetic nephropathy. How do you know you have diabetic kidney disease? You may get swollen ankles or feet, and that's fluid. You may have nausea and loss of appetite. You could be very, very tired, but you can't sleep, dry, itchy skin, and difficulty in concentrating. Now, the thing about it is these are very late-stage symptoms of diabetic kidney disease. When you have these symptoms, oftentimes you're already at stage 4 or 5 kidney disease, and we're starting to think about things like dialysis. So the treatment of kidney disease. Kidney disease is easy to treat, but it is based on each individual patient. So what we recommend is that if you have diabetic kidney disease at stage 3, 4, or 5, you ask to see your kidney doctor or your nephrologist and an endocrinologist. So the main treatments for diabetic kidney disease is to control your diabetes and your high blood pressure. We recommend lifestyle modifications such as weight loss, exercise, a low-salt diet, and smoking cessation. If you have high blood pressure, we aim for target blood pressure levels of less than 130 on 80, ideally closer to 120 on 80. So to treat your diabetes, you may be on oral medications such as metformin, gliclazide, or insulin. And to help prevent protein leak, your diabetic doctor or your kidney doctor may start medications such as ACE inhibitors or ARBs. So the ACE inhibitors are medications like lisinopril, ramipril, enalapril. I'm sure you're all more than aware of those medications, or things like losartan, candesartan, irbesartan, so Aprevel, Atacan. The SGLT2 inhibitors are brand new drugs on the market, and those are Forxiga or dapagliflozin and empagliflozin or Jardiance. I'm sure some of you are on those medications as well. And there's a new drug on the market called Finarone, which is a mineralocorticoid receptor antagonist. What these do is these help to control the protein leak in the kidney so that overall you don't get progressive damage. Our aim for diabetics who have diabetic kidney disease is to control your protein leak to help slow the progression of disease. Thank you. That's all I have for now. I will be doing questions afterwards with everyone else.
Thank you so much. We want to hold you on the stage. Now, here's what. We do have quite a few presenters, so if in your notes, each one of us have an agenda here, you can jot it down, write your questions, we'll get the questions to our experts here. Thank you so much. You want to take the time? And invite Fran. On behalf of the Diabetes Association, thank you, Dr. Suku. Yeah. From the kidneys, we go to the nerves. A question I get on the lunchtime, doctor, quite a lot. The tingling, the burning, doc, this pain in my lower limbs. Here, to give us a little bit more on diabetic neuropathy is none other than Dr. Nicholas Maharaj. He is indeed the Medical Director of Synapse Medical Services, UK Specialist in Internal Medicine with a Canadian Fellowships in Neurology, Stroke, Epilepsy, Stroke Neurology, and Epilepsy. He's also the Fellow of the Royal College of Physicians of Edinburgh, and in his free time, fun fact, he actually enjoys going to the gym, running, and playing chess. We invite Dr. Marat.
Thank you very much, Sophia, for that wonderful introduction. So let's just make sure that I know how to operate this. Is it on already? First, the keyboard. Right. Fine, go ahead. Technical difficulties. All right, so we are going to talk about diabetic neuropathy. So in order to understand diabetic neuropathy, we need to understand what is the nervous system. So the nervous system is composed of nerves. There are healthy nerves, there are unhealthy nerves. Nerves essentially are like wires. There's the inner copper part of the wire, and then there's the outer part. For example, and that's the rubber insulation around the nerves. The inner part in our nerves is called the axon. The outer part is called the myelin sheath. Our nerves can become damaged from all sorts of trouble. Diabetes is one of the major things that can cause our nerves to become damaged. So what do the nervous system does? The nervous system essentially functions from the brain, down the spinal cord, and down the nerves themselves. So what I like to explain to my patients is that the nervous system functions like power gen being the brain, the transmitting system being the spinal cord. That's the big transmitting wires that coming down from power gen to the nodes and hubs all over the place in Trinidad. And then the final little nerves that come down to your hand, to your legs. Those would be the little, from the transformer outside your house down to your house itself. When you have nerve trouble, it could be, but when you have any sort of neurological issue, it could be either a problem with the brain, a problem with the spine, or a problem with the nerves themselves. So what is neuropathy? Neuro means nerve, pathy means damage. Basically, means nerve damage. Why does this happen in diabetes? Normally, the nerves are supplied by blood vessels. These blood vessels give the nerves food and oxygen and take away the yucky things that the body does with the food, like all the breakdown products of metabolism, and the carbon dioxide that's used, and then gets rid of it. It goes, the blood pumps from the heart to the body, gives it up the oxygen, gives up the food, that's being used, that goes back to the lungs, goes back to the heart, and the process completes the cycle over and over again. With diabetes specifically, the high sugars, they damage the little pipes that carry blood to the nerves and cause them to become damaged. Hold on, let's see how this pointer does work. All right, so normal healthy nerve, pipes carrying blood there to the nerves. These blood vessels become damaged. The nerves look nice and healthy up here, nice and not so healthy down there. What are the symptoms of diabetic neuropathy? And you hear this all the time. Doc, I feel like ants crawling on my feet. Doc, again, gingerly in my legs. Doc, it burning in the night. I have this kind of shocking, it's electricity all over the place. Doc, when I walk in, I'm off balance. When the cold water touch my feet when I'm bathing, I want to dead. It's hate me when I hear patients talking like this, because I know for sure, off the bat, it's neuropathy. Now, just as a side quest, diabetes is not the only cause of neuropathy, but it is the most common cause of neuropathy in the world. So it could be other things besides diabetes that give you these symptoms, but this is neuropathy. And the most common cause of all neuropathies in the world is diabetes. This is what patients say look like. Feel like they're walking on pins and needles, feel like they're getting shocked, burning, something clamping down on them, pins and needles. This looks terrible, like their legs on fire. So it's a really terrible, terrible sounding disease. Worst case scenario, patients could get diabetic foot ulcers. Why does this happen? It's due to poor blood supply to the legs, and in addition to the lack of feeling that you can get under the legs. Lack of feeling, you're outside, you're walking around, you're not feeling the legs, you're not feeling wherever you're walking, so you might get a little small cut or a sore from something. And because you have poor blood supply to that area, you're not going to get the blood going there properly. You're not going to get healing happening the way it's supposed to. So you can develop ulcers. Stage 1 or 0, no ulcer. Stage 1, small little ulcer form, superficial at best. Gets a bit deeper, comes involving the tendons, the ligaments, the capsule. Gets worse, starts affecting the underlying bone. When it gets even worse than that, you can get this thing called gangrene, where it just affects part of the foot. And when it's really, really bad, the gangrene can spread and affect the entire leg, going up from the foot, coming up to the ankle, coming up to the knee. So, a scary world there. Sorry about that. But you just need to understand how bad things could be to try and put things in perspective to keep yourself from getting like that. How are we going to treat this? Well, most important, prevention is better than cure. For the diabetics, you need to wash and inspect your feet daily so that you can look at them, see how they're looking, make sure you don't have any cuts, make sure you don't have any sores, make sure you don't have anything looking not healthy there. Typically, I tell patients do it right after they have a bath, when they're just cleaning their feet with the towel. Check your foot sensation. If you're not feeling, get that checked out. And when I mean not feeling, so like you're not feeling with the legs, it's like people explain this to me like when they go to the dentist, and the dentist numbs their face to do any sort of dental procedure, where you're not feeling your face anymore. That's what happens with your legs. You stop feeling. Super important, as everybody said before, you need to control the blood sugars because that will help prevent the neuropathy. And if your neuropathy is also present there, stops it from getting worse. Exercise. Key. Everybody keeps saying this. TT moves, that we need to keep exercising. You want to have about 13 minutes brisk walking 7 times a day. You want to break a sweat. It's not just walking around the house. It's not just housework. It's not just walking upstairs and downstairs. As here this entirely. Doc, I up and down all day. I tired. I can't exercise. No, it does not work. That's not the exercise that we need. And that do help with the neuropathy. Some of the home remedies. You can take some warm baths. Most important, if you're smoking, stop. It's real hard to. Everybody keeps saying that. But they have things in place. I believe there's smoking cessation clinics. I believe in Harima. Don't quote me on that. I need to find out where exactly they are in the public health system. If you do smoke, do start. And if you're smoking, try and quit. Get help. Regular exercise. Essential oils makes the legs feel better. Dedicated time to meditation. A lot of people say that mindfulness helps the neuropathy feel a little bit better. Acupuncture on the pressure points can be useful when it's done properly. Make sure you have a good vitamin intake. And some of these cayenne oil pepper ointments can also help with the burning. Treatment for the neuropathy itself. When you have numbness, aka the lack of sensation, it's difficult to get back the sensation because the sensation nerves are not working the way they're supposed to work. When you have the burning, when you have the tingling, when you have the shocking, when you have the ginginy, you have medication for that. Right there on CDAP, we have our amitriptyline. Really cheap medication, very, very, very useful. You take about a half a tablet a day, take a whole tablet at night. Trouble is, it causes a bit of drowsiness, so we give it to you at night. All right? Other medications, there's something called gabapentin, pregabalin. Those are a bit on the less cheap side, but they work well also. A little bit more. So there's something called autonomic neuropathy. The autonomic nervous system is the automatic nervous system that we don't think about consciously. Where all of us breathe in here right now, but we're not consciously breathing. Our heart is working, sending blood up around our body. It's adjusting our heart rate. That's how much times our heart beats every minute. Our blood pressure. Those are the automatic nervous system controls in place there. There's either the fight or flight response, where the automatic nervous system is activated, or the rest and recovery response, where the automatic nervous system is kind of in a relaxed state. Diabetes damages all the nerves in the body, and it can also damage the automatic nervous system, causing trouble with eyes. So you can have difficulty with vision, your heart. So many people say this, they get dizzy when they're standing up. When they're sitting down for a long period of time or lying down, and they start to say, Doc, oh God, I feel giddy, I feel lightheaded, I want to fall down. That could be due to diabetic autonomic neuropathy. The upper gastrointestinal system, you could have nausea, you could have vomiting, you could have stomach fullness, because the upper part of the gastrointestinal tract sends food from the mouth down the food pipe into the stomach, down into the intestines, finally down into the bowels. If it's not working the way it's supposed to work, food could stay up here and try to go back up. So you can get those symptoms. It affects the lower gastrointestinal tract. So you're supposed to pass stool out, it can become constipated. And as we saw before in our video, men can have erectile dysfunction. So, take-home messages. Diabetes is a whole body disease. Dr. Suku spoke before about the kidneys being affected. Diabetes damages your brain, it damages your eyes, it damages your heart, it damages your kidneys, it damages the pipes all around your body, and it damages your nerves all around your body. Early, proper management is essential to prevent long-term negative consequences. So with that, I thank you very much for your time, everyone.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maharaj. And we invite Shobha to express some warm words of appreciation to Dr. Maharaj. Now, I know you all will have a host of questions. Like we said, jotted down at the back. We are a little behind, and we're trying to catch up on the time because we're mindful that you have to have your lunch on time. Yeah, bullet. Now, part of our distinguished panel speakers here today, and I'm sure this name rings a bell, is Dr. Shireen Kalu. Did you all know since 2015 she received Trinidad and Tobago High Honor bestowed onto Dr. Kalu the Medal for Development of Women Gold, one of the nation's highest national awards for her contribution to the development of women's rights and issues in Trinidad and Tobago. She is indeed the director at St. Augustine Private Hospital. And without further ado, while there's a long bio, I'm sure our audience is familiar, I give you Dr. Shireen Kalu.
Good morning, everyone. You all hearing me? A little taller than Nicholas here. So. We're friends. Good morning, everyone. All protocols observed. Thank you for your warm welcome, and thank you for making the time to come out to be empowered. I'm not here to give the definition of diabetes because I'm sure you've all heard it over and over for today, and you all are aware of diabetes. I'm an obstetrician and a gynecologist for more than 20 years now. But more importantly, I'm a woman who is diabetic. And I have here my card. It's my life membership diabetic card with the Diabetes Association. I don't think Andrew knows this, but I am a diabetic. And I'm here to educate you from a personal perspective because I was first diagnosed with diabetes in pregnancy 29 years ago. So this, there we go. This, as you may know, is called gestational diabetes. And I love the theme for today, know your risk, know your response. My love for education, especially in women's health, has afforded me the pleasure of meeting, learning, listening, empowering, and inspiring. So not only does diabetes, why is it not going forward? Help. This one. Okay, good. It's high-tech thing. So not only does diabetes affect other organs, which you all have heard about already for the morning. You've heard about the kidney, you've heard about the nerves, but a host of other organs are affected, which you may be aware of: the eyes, the heart, in pregnancy, and fertility. But my motto is to make available to every woman the health resources she needs to live a healthy, active, and long life. And at the same time, I would like to educate everyone and women about the importance of preventative health measures. That's what's important. And yes, you men in the audience might be wondering, gestational diabetes is for women. Yeah, sure, but you need to understand us as well, because you have to help us. So you go through the support system and remind us how to respond in a positive manner. So gestational diabetes is unfortunately a common occurrence in pregnancy. It affects thousands of pregnant women each year. It's considered to be what we call a diabetogenic state. So what happens here on the screen, as you will see, is the hormones of pregnancy aggravates the pancreas, and it effectively produces less effective insulin. So if a woman is meant to be a diabetic with the risk factors, this is when it will show itself. So we have now evolved into screening all our pregnant women for diabetes by using what we call the glucose tolerance test, or the GTT, as you may be aware of it when you go to the clinics or your doctors to be told what to do. The problem, in my opinion, is not the management of diabetes, but it's the failure to diagnose gestational diabetes and treat it properly. Because if it is untreated, it leads to a myriad of medical problems for both mother and baby. So the problem is not having the diabetes, but it's having poor control in pregnancy. And that is why I want to re-emphasize the importance of antenatal care, the importance of going to your clinics to make sure that you are aware of your doctors being aware of what may be a problem, what are your risk factors, and identifying if you may have a problem, managing it immediately. And we'll talk about more of those complications that can take place just in a little while. So the risk factors are important to recognize, and these would include obesity with a BMI that's over 25, a family history of diabetes, having had previous large babies, having had miscarriages, if you've had previous stillbirths and you haven't found out the reason why, that may be something you have to look into. If you have a history of polycystic ovary syndrome, that is also a risk factor for developing type 2 diabetes. If you're an older patient in pregnancy, over 35, you're at a higher risk of developing diabetes as well in pregnancy. If your lifestyle is sedentary, you're at a desk all day, you're not exercising. We keep hearing over and over the importance of exercising, eating properly, and of course genetics. These are some of the factors that can aggravate your problems. Question that a lot of people will ask in the office setting in pregnancy: can you have diabetes in pregnancy, doc, and have no symptoms? And that is actually the most common symptom, no symptoms. So people who have gestational diabetes may not have symptoms. And your other specialist doctors would have recognized before and mentioned to you the other symptoms that you can get out of pregnancy with diabetes. But having no symptoms is something that is a serious problem, because you think you're fine, but that is why we insist that you have testing done during pregnancy for diabetes. So you may commonly get genital itching or a yeast infection, and you may get urinary tract infections, but the tiredness, excessive thirst, urination, dried mouth, and these can occur, but they're not as common in pregnancy with gestational diabetes. There are complications of diabetes to both mother and child, as I mentioned before. And if this is not managed adequately, we could run into problems. So again, re-emphasizing the importance of making sure that you are well controlled. So for the mother, we have complications, and to the baby, there are complications. And to mother, preeclampsia, which is a condition where the blood pressure goes up and you have protein in the urine, etc. Pregnancy-induced hypertension, that is a complication. There is an increased risk of cesarean section, polyhydramnios, which is excessive fluid. There's a risk of diabetes in future pregnancies, gestational diabetes, that is, and of course, possibility of a gestational diabetic developing type 2 diabetes later in life is increased as well. For the newborns, we can end up with a very large baby, and that is because when the mother's sugar goes up, it's interpreted to the baby as high sugars for the baby, and that now causes the baby to increase their insulin production, and the insulin is a growth hormone, so that causes the bigger baby. The babies may have problems such as breathing problems at birth trauma because they are bigger, so you could have injuries to the baby at birth if it's not recognized to be a big baby at the time of delivery. Congenital abnormalities, so the sugar levels are too high, you can end up with different malformations. Usually it's neural tube defects, as Dr. Nicholas Mirage would have mentioned, with nerves, but with the developing fetus, we have that kind of problem to deal with the newborn babies with smaller heads, missing brain. It's really not a nice thing if you're not well controlled in the early stages as well. And those are the problems that take place in the first trimester with mothers who are not identified to be diabetics in the early stage. So it's important to have your preconception counseling done to adequately identify if you're diabetic as well. And then, of course, you can have heart congenital abnormalities as well. Growth restriction, preterm births, stillbirths, low sugars when a baby is born. So we have to make sure that our neonatologist is present to ensure that our babies are okay when they're born. Jaundice. And of course, with the babies, they have an increased risk of obesity later on in life and developing type 2 diabetes as well. It's important to note that gestational diabetes goes away after you deliver your baby, so after your baby is born. However, there's a higher risk of type 2 diabetes to the mother later in life. And mothers are therefore advised to see their doctors after having their babies. So you have your delivery, you have your baby, you're at home and you're so busy with your baby, you forget about yourself. No, you need to go for your annual checkups to ensure that you don't become a diabetic later in life, which is what happened to me. I developed gestational in my first pregnancy, was good for 2 years, and then became a full-blown diabetic after that, up until today, but well controlled. According to the American Diabetes Association, gestational diabetes increased significantly over the past 20 years. And again, that is why we re-emphasize the importance of going to your doctor to ensure that you have good control. If you develop gestational diabetes while you're pregnant, remember you have to have tight control, so it must be diagnosed and treated appropriately. These are the kind of sugars that we look for in pregnancy, but we do recognize that we need to refer to somebody like Dr. Anisha, who would be your endocrinologist and managing your pregnancy together with us. So she manages the sugar, we manage the pregnancy. One thing I noticed and I wanted to bring up today is the mental aspect of managing diabetes is not adequately dealt with. And I speak from a personal view. The depression, the lack of acceptance, the issues I've dealt with myself. It took me a while to admit that I am a diabetic, even though I had a family history of diabetes. I remember my endocrinologist, doctors tend to treat themselves, but in this case I decided to see a doctor. And my endocrinologist, who was Professor Tilak Singh at the time, said to me on the phone, Shireen, no, your sugar could never be 389. That is impossible. You do not have the physique for it. I said, yes, Prof, it's not a mistake. Please tell me what to do. So, you need to convince yourself that it is not your fault and accept that there is help. And that is important. Try not to compare yourself with others, but come to terms with your diagnosis to find the best treatment options for you. Because what is good for Sarah may not be good for you. So see your doctor for management. So now that you know your risk and what your response would be, what do you think your response would be? Well, I've said it. First of all, acceptance is important. Knowing good control will result in a normal pregnancy and outcome. And again, I'm re-emphasizing, it's only if you have poor control of diabetes in pregnancy, then we have a poor outcome. Otherwise, we have an absolutely normal pregnancy and delivery. So, exercise, proper eating habits. I don't know if you all know this, but I found out this in my reading that kiwi is actually beneficial for gestational diabetes because it has the lowest glycemic index of any fruit. In addition to this, it's rich in fiber. So those of us in pregnancy who have constipation, it's a good idea to use the kiwi as a fruit to help with, of course, your other local fruits. Medication is also prescribed by your endocrinologist, and these would include glucophage and insulin, and they adjust the dosages to suit based on the readings that we get of the sugar. Monitoring, I needed to touch on this a little bit, just very briefly. Monitoring of your sugar levels is also so important, not just to see if it's high, but also it may go too low. Symptoms of low blood sugar would be, as you see there, sweating, blurred vision, shaking, headaches, feeling disoriented, irritable, and if it's low enough, it can actually send you into a coma. So I know that I can recognize this in time, and you need to learn when to recognize it. Up to last night, because in our jobs we don't have time to eat properly, which I shouldn't be saying, but we try to eat in time and healthy, but face it, it's the reality of the world we live in. We all have hectic jobs. And if not eaten in time, which I unfortunately did not do yesterday, did have a hypoglycemic attack, but I recognized it by feeling the sweating and starting to feel that kind of shaking. Took something sweet immediately, and that's just how you treat it, but it's important to recognize this particular condition can occur. Another common question that I get all the time, and before I wrap up, I want to say, do you need to have a cesarean section delivery if you're diabetic? And the answer is no. You can have an absolutely normal vaginal delivery with gestational diabetes once your sugars are well controlled and there is no other obstetric problem. For instance, the baby is not too large, the baby is not breached, your pelvis can accommodate a normal delivery, there's no high blood pressure, there's no placenta obstructing. Yes, you can have a normal delivery. I would like to say that the real problem with gestational diabetes is in not making the diagnosis and the complications associated with poor control. Now, I personally do not like to refer to diabetes as being reversible. I've heard people saying that it's reversible. I personally find it gives a false sense of security. So I feel that we can control diabetes or we could put it in remission, and the outcomes will be satisfactory. We have long, healthy lives ahead of us once we are well controlled. This is me in pregnancy 29 years ago. I was 37 weeks pregnant, attended one of my friend's wedding, and gestational diabetic. So I am here standing today, 29 years later, as a diabetic and well controlled, and you can do it too. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shireen Kalu. We ask you to hold on the stage. And we invite Jenny to give the vote of thanks. Appreciation. Go ahead. Now, we're very mindful of the time, and on your schedule, you'll also be aware that we do have a school debate. So if there are any persons who are participating in that school debate, note that that's going to happen in Lecture Theatre D. We did skip through one of the presentations because Dr. Kalu did mention in the earlies she had some patients waiting, and we did not want to keep those diabetic pregnant patients waiting at all in the clinic. So now we're moving on to our next presentation, the one that was scheduled just before, A Healthy Mouth, A Healthy Life. Let me share a little bit about this upcoming presenter. You may or may not have heard about her before, but I'm certain after her presentation, you will not forget her. Dr. Amanda Ramkalawan has indeed been a recipient of the National CAPE Scholarship way back in 2015 and placed first in the 6th and 7th Annual World Diabetes Quiz in 2006 and 2007 consecutively under the Couva branch of the Diabetes Association. She's a general dentist, graduated with honors from UB right here as a doctor in dental surgery. We invite to the stage Dr. Amanda Ramkalawan.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be with you all today. So today I'll be discussing a healthy mouth, a healthy life, the role of oral health in diabetes. Now, oral health is a generally under-recognized clinical problem. And who could agree? Yeah? All right, so it's widely known that diabetes affects the entire body. But how many of you, by a show of hands, know that our oral health actually impacts our diabetes? Anyone? Yeah? All right. So today we'll be discussing this two-way relationship between diabetes and our oral health. And first we'll be looking at the effect of diabetes on the mouth. Now we know that diabetics are more prone to infection, and as such, the impacts of diabetes on the mouth is not really favorable. Many times we see diabetics with dry mouth, tooth decay, angular colitis, and oral thrush, which are essentially fungal infections, halitosis, which is bad breath, and most commonly, gum disease. I've realized that some of my notes are actually cut off from this version of the PowerPoint, but that's all right. We'll discuss it. So gum disease is of particular importance. The reason being is that it's estimated in research that anywhere between 50 to 90% of diabetics actually have some form of gum disease. As a matter of fact, diabetics are anywhere between 2 and 5 times more likely to develop some type of gum disease as opposed to a regular healthy person. Gum diseases are essentially caused primarily by plaque. We have 2 types, gingivitis and periodontitis. Gingivitis is inflammation of the gums, while periodontitis is inflammation of the periodontium. The periodontium is essentially the entire supporting structure that houses or basically serve as the foundation for our teeth, and include gums, the alveolar bone, periodontal ligaments, as well as the connective tissue. So here we have a nice little diagram showing us the main cause of plaque, well, gum disease as plaque. However, systemic diseases such as diabetes, especially when uncontrolled or poorly controlled, significantly exacerbate the effect of plaque on our oral tissues. Other risk factors include things as smoking, increased age, stress, and even hormonal changes such as during pregnancy. So here we have a picture showing someone with gingivitis. You may see the gums look a little bit red, a little bit puffy, a little bit swollen, and they tend to bleed easily. The important thing to note about gum disease is that it's a mild inflammation of the gums, and it's actually reversible if treated on time. However, if it's allowed to progress, periodontitis is what occurs, where the underlying bone, connective tissue, and periodontal ligaments also become inflamed. The issue with periodontitis is that once it starts, there's no way to reverse it. The bone supporting the teeth actually starts to eat away, and because of its destruction, drags the overlying gum with it. As such, you tend to see the teeth looking a lot longer, you tend to see the roots of the teeth, and then you tend to get things like sensitivity and so on. It's not to say that the teeth are actually bad, there's no decay or cavities or anything of the sort, but the foundation of where the teeth are resting on becomes so unstable, it causes the teeth to start getting a little bit shaky, a little bit wobbly, and then if it's not treated, will inevitably result in tooth loss. So here we have a nice little diagram showing us the two-way relationship between diabetes and periodontitis. Yes, we know diabetics are more prone to infection and thus increase the risk of developing periodontitis or gum disease. However, periodontitis, being a chronic systemic low-grade inflammation in the body, negatively affects the control of diabetes. As such, it makes diabetes difficult to control, and thus our blood sugar just skyrockets. It essentially puts stress on the body so that the body cannot effectively deal with the diabetes. Periodontitis in research has also been shown to increase the risk of diabetic complications, things like heart complaints, eye complaints, kidney complaints, and so on. As a matter of fact, there are studies that show that the more severe your periodontitis or your gum disease is, it's more associated with more severe heart disease, heart complaints, and all of those things related to diabetes as well. So how do we prevent and how do we treat or manage oral complications of diabetes? Dentists recommend brushing twice daily with a soft toothbrush and fluoride toothpaste. Now there's been advances in toothpaste, the toothpaste companies, that they have actually started to produce toothpaste that are more targeted for gum health. And as such, on the market now, you will see things like Crest Gum Detoxify, Colgate Total Gum Protection, and Sensodyne Sensitivity and Gum, which are all also antiseptic as well as anti-cavity to help prevent gum disease as well as treat cavities, strengthen the teeth, and prevent sensitivity also. We recommend flossing every night before brushing. The reason being is that we could brush how many times we want, but the bristles on our toothbrush don't actually get in between our teeth. And that's where flossing comes in. Now, you don't have to floss morning and evening, at least at nighttime, it will be perfect, as you eat and drink whatever throughout the day. So floss before brushing at night, and then in the cases of gum disease, you'll see those little dark triangles between our teeth. That's caused because, remember, in periodontitis, we lose the support around our teeth. We lose the gums, we lose the bone, and it starts to pull away, exposing these little spaces in between. That's where we recommend using an interdental brush. So we use the interdental brush, we floss at night, and then we brush our teeth. I don't know if you all look at how much TV you all look at, but you see when you're looking at TV and those white people will brush their teeth and spit and go, that's actually what we recommend. The reason being is that if we rinse our toothpaste immediately after brushing, it's removing all the active ingredients that work to strengthen our teeth and strengthen our gums. So what we recommend is spitting on the excess and going about your business, essentially. It sounds a little bit icky, right? No. So what I actually like to do, and that's just my thing. I like to take a little blob of my toothpaste in my finger after having rinsed, take the blob from my finger, put it on the tip of my tongue, and let my tongue swish it around everywhere. So that means we still have active ingredients in our mouths to work and give it enough time. Yeah? All right. So we also recommend the use of other oral hygiene aids, things like mouth rinses. Now, mouth rinses are not to be used immediately after brushing because you're basically rinsing out all the active ingredients from your toothpaste immediately after as well. Right? So mouth rinses are to be used to supplement your oral hygiene regime throughout the day, essentially, maybe after a snack or after lunch, you know? So we recommend interchanging between a fluoridated mouth rinse and chlorhexidine or an antiseptic mouth rinse. How many of you all use the blue Listerine or the brown Listerine? Show of hands. A lot of you all, here's some. Well, the only Listerine that's fluoridated is actually pink and the purple one. The pink is not available locally, so if you have to get any, we definitely recommend the purple one. Right? Chlorhexidine mouth rinses are medicated mouth rinses targeted to fight gum disease, fight inflammation of the gums. The thing about it is that it's so medicated, if you use it for a long period of time, it could also cause staining of your teeth. So we recommend that you use it daily, about 1 to 2 times a day, for a week at a time. So use it for a week, stop for a week, and then slowly add up the following week and so on, just depending on your need. Last but not least, we recommend visiting your dentist every 6 months. The reason being is that many patients might present to the dentist undiagnosed diabetes, and then in our mouths they present with signs of diabetes. So many times the dentist is the one to bring it to their attention that, hey, maybe we actually have some signs of something going on in the mouth, maybe there might be something else underlying. As such, early screening and early detection is crucial in preventing oral complications and treating oral complications from diabetes. The overall takeaway is that if you treat your periodontal disease, you improve your diabetes. And if you manage your diabetes, you improve your oral health. So thank you very much for your attention. I know it's lunchtime. This is my information. If anyone needs to contact me with any questions or advice, feel free to snap a photo. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ramkalawan. I invite Jenny to present our token of appreciation. We're almost to the end of this session. Now, in the beginning, there was a lot of questions about stress, diabetes, some of the stigmatization, those concerns, burnout. So we have here our very last presenter for this session, Mr. Collier. Let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Charles Collier. He is indeed the former president of the Trinidad and Tobago Association of Psychologists and deeply committed to improving mental health across Trinidad and Tobago with a particular interest in behavior change, domestic violence. He's a clinical community psychologist who's worked with adolescents and adults for the past 20 years, both as a direct provider, creator, and coordinator of community-based programs. We invite Mr. Collier to present to you.
Where's the... Can you hear me clearly? All right. Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity to share with you a little bit. I will confess I was not aware of the degree of the intersection between mental health and diabetes prior to being asked to present on this. And so, as a matter of personal record, I got very invested very quickly because I lost my father in 2007 to complications of diabetes. Some of the physicians here will probably recognize a familiar story. He had a small injury on a toe. It wasn't properly treated. He developed septicemia, and he was gone very quickly. And I myself am insulin resistant, and I've been very attentive to my own care for a while, but I had not recognized how important my own profession might be in the address of diabetes. I ended up kind of going down a rabbit hole with this, and I definitely would like to connect with some of the other presenters and professionals because we need to talk. All through my own process, I found myself wondering if what I'm about to share with you had anything to do with what happened to my father. Oops, how do I go back? All right, so I want to talk to you about diabetes burnout, which there are different definitions of it, but one of them is exhaustion and frustration resulting in ignoring or being inconsistent in diabetes management. The part in parentheses I included. The exhaustion and frustration is specifically with regard to living with diabetes. And it is, the framework for this is using the framework that has been developed and used for a long time with job burnout, which is what people are usually talking about when they talk about burnout. It's a three-part condition. Exhaustion, where people become mentally or physically exhausted with dealing with something, it originally with work, but mentally and physically exhausted with dealing with diabetes in this case. Detachment, where we become disconnected from ourselves, disconnected from the things that we should be concerned about, not work this time, but diabetes. And disconnection from support systems that are important for addressing and treating and caring for ourselves with regard to diabetes. And the third part is a sense of powerlessness, feeling impotent, lacking the power to change anything or make things happen, or feeling paralyzed, stuck. Diabetes burnout has, at least as it's described here, tends to lead to two sets of really problematic outcomes. The one that I would have been most focused on is that it tends to lead to depressive disorders. Major depressive disorder and other kinds of depressive conditions are much more likely if you're dealing with a chronic health condition like diabetes. What I had not given consideration to is that it also leads to worse outcomes with regard to diabetes. There's a related concept that is much more well-researched. I'm going to talk in a little bit about some of my concerns about the concept of diabetes burnout and the way that it's being used at the moment. There's a better researched concept called diabetes distress. Definition here, the negative emotional or affective, which essentially means to do with our feelings. The emotional experience resulting from the challenge of living with the demands of diabetes, regardless of the type of diabetes. So it doesn't matter whether it's type 1 or type 2. It's the same impact, it's the same effect. There are emotional consequences of dealing with diabetes. I just want to note, I'm going to just skip back up to the previous slide. Diabetes burnout differs from diabetes distress not in the fact that there's recognition of an emotional impact of diabetes, but in that diabetes burnout includes behavior, the ignoring or being inconsistent in the management of the diabetes. We'll come back to that. So, with diabetes distress, in an early study on this, about 60% of the people who responded to that study, it was a fairly big study, reported experiencing at least one really serious psychological effect of living with diabetes. And about 50% of those who were involved in this study, in another more recent study, were experiencing significant emotional, psychological distress as a result of their diabetes. One author in particular drew attention to something, that the distress may come from more than one source. It may not just be the strain of living with diabetes itself. Not that that's not sufficient, that is definitely distressing. And if you have diabetes, you have people around you who have diabetes, diabetes has had a role in your life, you know that it can be distressing. So there's that factor, but there's also the strain of feeling isolated and particularly unheard, especially when dealing with the medical profession. And so often when people are seeking care with diabetes, they may be having a particular set of experiences. Their individual experience may involve different kinds of pain or distress or frustrations or concerns, and they may find that they're trying to address that and they're getting a sort of, yeah, well, you know, XYZ, just do the same thing, very rote kind of response, and they feel as though nobody's really listening to them. And so that itself may be part of what drives emotional distress in the process. And so I would like us to kind of rethink the way that we talk about diabetes burnout in particular. It appears in studies to be include elements of depression and elements of diabetes distress. And so even when studies are done where those things are measured, diabetes burnout seems to disappear. And so I personally think that the concept isn't really, needs to be reimagined. And I also think that the framework of relying on the way that we think about job burnout may not really fit. Job burnout, using a job burnout model assumes that dealing with diabetes, dealing with a chronic health condition that is affecting all sorts of things, is the same as dealing with a job that I don't like or a boss that I don't like and that I don't feel I can immediately leave. And I don't think that's true. I don't think that's the same thing. So, what I want us to think about is burnout as a kind of context-specific depressive syndrome. What I mean is, instead of just generally being depressed, having a depressive experience specifically about diabetes. And I want us to understand depression from, for me, a way of narrowing it down. Depression is a natural response to feeling threatened, but feeling unable to escape the threat. Here in Trinidad and Tobago, we have a tendency to think of mental health issues in this very one thing or the other. You're mad or you ain't mad. And so what we do is we shy away from dealing with mental health issues because we think if we acknowledge that there's anything that we're struggling with mentally, it means we're in the mad category. And so we don't want to deal with that. But that's not real. That's not true with anything. And so in reality, depression is a natural outcome of being stuck and not being able to get away from the thing that is causing us problems or distress. It makes us feel trapped. It makes us feel possibly doomed or hopeless when we can't get out, we can't find a way out of this particular problem, whatever it may be. And as a result, we lose motivation and we lose interest in different activities. We lose energy, we feel tired, we stop engaging in things that give us pleasure, or things that we enjoy, or things that matter to us. People, when they get depressed, they don't want to eat, or they don't sleep, or things that are really important to life. And we also become disconnected. We don't want to be around anybody, we don't want to talk to anybody, we just pull up in the room and, spend all the time on the tablet or the phone or whatever. And it's a downward spiral, because the more we do that, the more depressed we become. So I'm telling you that because I would like us to think about diabetes burnout as a kind of specific depressive disorder or condition that has to do with diabetes and living with diabetes. So thinking of it as a natural response to having to deal with diabetes, having to deal with the care of it, having to deal with all the complications, and having all of that seem inescapable, seem like something I cannot get away from. What follows is feeling trapped by diabetes, losing motivation to address and think about diabetes care activities, losing energy, feeling exhausted and frustrated and fed up and tired, just thinking about having to deal with diabetes. And as a result, withdrawing from the activities that we actually need to do to take care of ourselves with regard to diabetes. And at the same time, withdrawing from any kind of social interaction where we would have to deal with the diabetes. And so we don't want to talk about it to anybody. We don't want, that person is going to ask me what's happening with my diabetes. I don't want to talk to them. I'm avoiding them. I don't want to go to the clinic. I don't want to go to the doctor. I don't want to deal with any of that. I just want to hide away from the diabetes, and maybe it will go away. Except, of course, that's not how it works. So, I tried to find, I was looking really for effective psychological interventions for this. There isn't a whole lot with regard to diabetes burnout interventions. There are some studies with regard to diabetes distress and intervention, but the studies aren't very helpful. They don't give a lot of information. Reviews of them find that a lot of the studies are too small and they have other flaws in the methodology. And so even though you come up with answers, you're not sure how valid or meaningful those answers are. There's been a more recent study that I found that was interesting, that seemed to show some positive suggestions with regard to the importance of diabetes education and what is called mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, which I can't go into all the details, but I'll reference it sort of in a minute. So, talking about then possibilities for prevention and intervention. And so one of the reasons that I said I want to talk to some of the other professionals is that in a sense, this is an open field. There's a lot that needs to be done. There's a lot that needs to be learned and developed and practiced with regard to taking care of the mental health of people who are living with diabetes. I think that a medically based prevention and intervention approach is probably best for us. I think that we need screening tools. The existing things are long surveys and questionnaires, which I cannot see that being very useful in a medical setting. We need to develop simpler screening tools, and we need lots of research on this subject. I also think, based on what I've seen, that patient education regarding diabetes and the care of diabetes is absolutely central. It's absolutely essential. What's also important is provider education, that providers have to be aware of the importance of addressing mental health with the patients whom they're seeing who are dealing with diabetes. Providers have to become better educated and more attuned to what's happening to the mental health of their patients. And there needs to be patient education as well regarding mental health and diabetes. All right. In particular, I would love to figure out on how to work with physicians who are treating, physicians and other providers who are treating people with diabetes about building listening skills. Active, empathetic listening from a provider may be one of the things that is most useful for helping patients with their mental health, particularly burnout, and the building up of more mutual and peer support. And I think that requires a certain amount of training. There has to be a lot of collaboration between patients and providers. There has to be collaboration between allied supporters and patients and providers. There has to be collaboration between members of the community of people who are living with diabetes. And as Dr. Kalu mentioned earlier on, acceptance is absolutely critical. And it's part of why the mindfulness cognitive therapy may have been useful, because it does focus on learning to accept reality and to move from reality into a desired future. The acceptance doesn't mean that I have to like the fact that I have some diabetic condition or set of challenges. It means accepting that that's the reality. And that may be something that is especially important to build into the address of burnout. There's also a need, and this is the last that I will say before I close, for providers to work on acceptance as well. Providers themselves also tend to suffer burnout because they are frequently overwhelmed with the sheer volume of people who are coming to them and all the different challenges and things that they're facing. And so the providers can be exhausted. And so you have an exhausted, emotionally drained patient talking to an exhausted, emotionally drained doctor. And, you know, the two of them are walking on one leg and trying to make their way down the road. And so there is a need for providers to do their own work. I can tell you as a mental health professional, as a therapist, I do a lot of work with trauma and a lot of really distressing stuff. I have to have my own mental health care regimen, because if I don't, I'm going to need my own time out with my own mental health professional for a while. And so those are some things I want to put on the table, and I thank you again for this opportunity and for helping me to get connected to something that it turns out is really important in my own life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Collier. We invite Fran to come up to give that token of appreciation. So you all have been an incredibly patient audience. We've heard from experts in the neurology field, in the nephrology field, dentistry, psychology. We've learned quite a lot. Gynecology, obstetrician, we've heard across the spectrum. To be this particular segment, we now bring this to a close, but we invite you, hold on, to not only look at the booths outside, but also check out in Lecture Hall D, where the debate is going on. I want to give you all a call to action. We've talked about the response. Know your risk, know your response. The call to action is the acronym ACT. A, we're going to acknowledge. We're going to be more aware. C, we want you to make the right choices. And T, do it in a timely manner. So that brings this session to an end. I do invite Shoba, our Vice President, to say a few words.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So I would just want to give a little token to Dr. Sifia Mohammed. Pull it up. Yes. So you all hearing me now? No? Okay, so we just want to give Dr. Safia Mohammed a token of thank you for that good job this morning. A good, excellent job.
And we'll be resuming at 1:40. Thank you so much for being such a patient audience. There's lunch outside, there's booths outside, there are persons to network with, and of course, join us right back here at 1:40.